There are snacks that defined Canadian childhoods in the 90s and 2000s that disappeared without warning and were never replaced. Not discontinued gradually, just gone. One day they were on shelves at Zeller's and Mac's Milk. The next day they vanished and took entire memories with them. If you remember these 10 snacks, you're a true Canadian. If you don't, you missed the golden age. These aren't snacks that faded away slowly. These are the ones that disappeared so completely that younger Canadians don't even believe they existed. Here are 10 vanished Canadian snacks that only real Canadians remember. One of them are bars. Eat More bars still exist technically, but the original formula disappeared in 2009 and was replaced with something that tastes like cardboard dipped in disappointment. The real Eat More was dark chocolate covering layers of peanuts and toffee that stuck to your teeth in the best way possible. The new version tastes like they removed sugar, removed flavor, and added sadness. Here's what happened. Hershey Canada bought the brand and immediately reformulated it to cut costs. They reduced cocoa content, switched to cheaper peanuts, and changed the toffee recipe. Sales dropped 40% within 2 years because Canadians noticed immediately. But Hershey didn't bring back the original. They just kept selling the inferior version. But here's the brutal part. Kids today eating Eat More bars have no idea they're eating a shadow of what it used to be. They think this is what Eat More always was. Canadians who grew up in the 90s know the truth. The real Eat More died in 2009. What exists now is an imposter wearing the same wrapper. If you remember buying Eat More bars at the corner store for 50 cents and actually enjoying them, you remember the version that doesn't exist anymore. That specific taste is gone forever. 2. Hostess Choco-Licious. Hostess Choco-Licious was a chocolate cake with cream filling that came in packages of 6 individual cakes. They were softer than Joss Louis, sweeter than Twinkies, and perfect for school lunches. Then, in 2012, they vanished. Not discontinued with warning, just gone from shelves with no explanation. Here's the mystery. Hostess Canada never announced discontinuation. One day they were everywhere. The next day grocery stores stopped carrying them. Parents showed up to buy them and found empty shelf space. Store employees had no information. The product just ceased to exist. But here's what makes it worse. There was no Canadian equivalent to replace them. Joss Louis are too dense. Caramel isn't chocolate. Veshan cakes are completely different. Choco-Licious occupied a specific niche in Canadian snack culture, and when they disappeared, the niche disappeared with them. If you remember the specific texture of Choco-Licious cake and the way the cream filling tasted slightly different from other cream-filled cakes, you remember something that can't be replicated. That exact combination is extinct. 3. Crispy Crunch. Crispy Crunch still exists, but like Eat More, the original formula was destroyed. The real Crispy Crunch from the 80s and 90s had a peanut butter filling that was actually crispy. You bit into it, and it shattered into crunchy peanut butter shards. The chocolate coating was thick and snapped when you broke the bar. Here's what changed. In 2006, Cadbury reformulated it. The peanut butter became softer and less crispy. The chocolate became thinner and waxy. The bar became smaller and cost more. Canadians revolted. Online forums exploded with complaints. Cadbury ignored them. But here's the tragedy. Younger Canadians eating Crispy Crunch today think it's always been this mediocre bar with barely crispy filling. They don't know that the original actually lived up to its name. The bar was genuinely crispy in a way that modern versions aren't even close to. If you remember Crispy Crunch bars from the 90s that actually crunched when you bit them and left peanut butter shards in your mouth, you remember a version that Cadbury killed and never brought back. 4. Zeller's Restaurant Sundays. This isn't technically a snack you bought, packaged, but it's a Canadian cultural memory that vanished completely. Zeller's department stores had restaurants inside them that served ice cream sundaes with specific toppings that tasted different from anywhere else. The hot fudge was thicker. The whipped cream was sweeter. The cherry on top was always there. Here's the timeline. Zellers started closing in 2013 when Target bought most locations. By 2020, the last Zellers stores closed. The restaurants disappeared with them. That specific Sunday experience is now impossible to recreate because the recipe died with the chain. But here's what makes this memory painful. Every Canadian over 30 remembers getting a Zellers Sunday after shopping with their parents. It was the reward for sitting through boring shopping trips. The specific taste is burned into childhood memories. No other Sunday tastes like it because no other restaurant used those exact recipes. If you remember sitting at a Zellers restaurant counter eating a sundae while your mom looked at deals, you remember something that younger Canadians will never experience. That specific moment in Canadian retail culture is extinct. 5. Pizzeria's chips. Pizzerias were pizza-flavored chips that actually tasted like pizza. Not vaguely tomato-flavored, not Italian spices flavored. They tasted like you were eating a slice of pepperoni pizza in chip form. They came in a bag with pizza graphics and were sold at every corner store in Canada in the 90s. Here's the disappearance. Keebler made them. Then Kellogg's bought Keebler. Then Pizzerias vanished around 2002. No announcement, no farewell tour. Just gone. Canadians who remembered them spent the next 20 years trying to find anything similar. Nothing comes close. But here's the frustration. Pizza-flavored chips still exist. Pringles makes them. Lay's makes them. They all taste like red pepper and garlic powder. None of them taste like actual pizza the way Pizzeria's did. That specific flavor profile was never replicated. If you remember Pizzerias and insist that modern pizza chips don't taste the same, you're right. They don't. The formula is gone, and nothing replaced it accurately. 6. Cadbury Marble Bars. Cadbury Marble was a chocolate bar with swirled milk and white chocolate in a marbled pattern. It was basically a caramel with white chocolate added, except it tasted completely different. The white chocolate wasn't too sweet. The milk chocolate was creamier than regular Cadbury. The combination was perfect. Here's the timeline. Marble bars existed from the 80s through early 2000s. Then Cadbury quietly discontinued them. They're still available in some international markets like Australia and New Zealand, but not Canada. The country where Cadbury had a major presence doesn't get the bar anymore. But here's the betrayal. Cadbury keeps releasing new limited edition bars. Pineapple Caramilk, Pineapple Caramilk, Orange Caramilk. But they won't bring back Marble, which actually had a dedicated fan base. They'd rather experiment with flavors nobody asked for than resurrect something people actively want. If you remember the specific taste of Cadbury Marble and how the white and milk chocolate swirl created a flavor that wasn't just chocolate plus white chocolate, you remember something Cadbury decided Canadians don't deserve anymore. 7. McCain Pizza Pockets. With the original formula. McCain Pizza Pockets still exist, but the original formula from the 90s is gone. The old version had crust that actually got crispy in the oven. The filling was chunkier with visible pieces of pepperoni and actual cheese. The sauce had flavor. Today's version has soggy crust, mystery meat, and cheese-flavored substance. Here's what changed. McCain reformulated around 2008 to reduce costs. They switched to cheaper ingredients, reduced filling quantity, and changed cooking instructions. The product became worse but cheaper to produce. Parents noticed, kids noticed. McCain kept the new formula anyway. But here's the cruelty. The packaging still shows appetizing pizza pockets with golden crust and generous filling. The actual product looks nothing like the box. It's false advertising using photos of the old formula to sell an inferior new version. If you remember pizza pockets from the 90s that actually tasted like pizza and had crust that got crispy, you remember a product that McCain replaced with a cost-cut shadow version. 8. Dare Maple Leaf Cookies. Dare Maple Leaf Cookies were sandwich cookies shaped like maple leaves with cream filling. They came in packages of cookies that actually tasted like maple, Not like generic vanilla with brown food coloring. They were distinctly Canadian and distinctly good. Here's the disappearance. Dare discontinued them around 2010. The company never explained why. They still make other sandwich cookies. They still make maple-flavored products. But maple leaf cookies specifically vanished and never came back. But here's what makes no sense. Those cookies were Canadian-themed, maple-flavored, and popular. Discontinuing them removed one of the most recognizably Canadian snacks from the market. Dare replace them with nothing. The maple leaf-shaped cookie that actually tasted like maple is extinct. If you remember Dare maple leaf cookies and insist they tasted different from regular sandwich cookies, you're right. The maple flavoring was real and specific. Nothing Dare makes now tastes like them. 9. Vaishon, 1/2 Lun before the recipe change. Vaishon 1/2 Lun still exists, but the original recipe was destroyed sometime in the 2010s. The old version had a specific sponge cake texture and vanilla cream filling that was lighter and less sweet than the current version. The chocolate coating was thicker and snapped when you bit it. Here's what happened. Vaishon was bought by Saputo, then sold to Canada Bread, Pucks, and then sold to Grupo Bimbo. Each ownership change brought recipe modifications to cut costs. By 2015, the 1/2 Lun bore little resemblance to the original. But here's the tragedy. 1/2 Lun is an iconic Quebec snack that spread across Canada. The current version is fine, but it's not what it was. The texture is denser. The filling is sweeter. The chocolate is thinner. Each change made it slightly worse. If you ate 1/2 Lun in the 90s and think they taste different now, you're not imagining it. Multiple recipe changes over 20 years transformed them into something similar, but not the same. O. Henry bars from before Nestle ruined them. O. Henry bars still exist, but the original formula is gone. The real O. Henry from the 80s and 90s had chunky peanuts, thick caramel, and chewy fudge under substantial chocolate coating. You could barely bite through it. It stuck to your teeth and lasted forever. Nestle bought the brand. They reduced peanut size. They made the caramel thinner. They decreased the fudge layer. They made the chocolate coating thinner. Each change saved cents per bar and destroyed the experience. But here's the betrayal. O. Henry was a Canadian classic that originated here. Nestle treated it like any other candy bar they could cost-optimize into mediocrity. The bar that used to be substantial and filling is now smaller, softer, and less satisfying. If you remember O. Henry bars that were so packed with peanuts and caramel that you needed 10 minutes to eat one, you remember a version that Nestle killed through cost-cutting. Here's the pattern across all 10 items. They were either discontinued without warning or reformulated into inferior versions. Canadian food companies and their corporate owners discovered they could cut costs by removing what made these snacks special. They assumed consumers wouldn't notice or wouldn't care enough to stop buying. They were half right. Consumers noticed, but many kept buying anyway because there were no alternatives. When Eat More changed, people complained but still bought it because it was the only peanut and toffee bar available. When Crispy Crunch changed, people complained but still bought it because alternatives didn't exist. But here's what these companies didn't account for. An entire generation of Canadians who remember the originals and refuse to accept the replacements. People who actively search for old formulas, petition companies to bring them back, and keep the memories alive through forums and social media. The snacks on this list represent more than food. They represent specific moments in Canadian culture that can't be recreated. Zeller's sundaes aren't just ice cream. They're childhood shopping trips. Pizzerias aren't just chips. They're lunch trades at school. Marble bars aren't just chocolate. They're corner store purchases with allowance money. These memories are distinctly Canadian. Americans didn't have Zellers. Brits didn't have Vaishon cakes. These experiences belong to Canadians who grew up in specific decades and bought specific products that no longer exist in their original forms. If you remember 5 or more items on this list with specific taste memories and not just vague recognition, you're a true Canadian who lived through the golden age of Canadian snacks. If you remember all 10 and can describe exactly how they tasted, you're part of a generation that watched Canadian food culture get systematically cost-cut into mediocrity. The snacks aren't coming back. Companies have moved on. But the memories remain. And those memories are proof that you experienced something younger Canadians will never taste. That specific combination of flavors, textures, and nostalgic context is extinct. The snacks vanished. The memories didn't. If someone younger than 25 tells you these snacks weren't that special, they're wrong. They're wrong because they never tasted them, and they'll never know what they missed.